Welcome to Still Mind Suttas. Today we spend a little time with one of the most personal and revealing moments in the early Buddhist texts. The Buddha describing his own journey of searching, leaving home, learning from teachers, and finally discovering what truly leads beyond suffering. This sutta, known as the Noble Search, invites us to look gently at our own lives and notice what we chase, what we cling to, and what we hope will finally make us whole. As you listen, you're invited to settle in and let the story open a quiet space inside, one where you can sense your own movement toward clarity, steadiness, and freedom. The Buddha was staying near Savath in Jeddah's Grove, in the monastery offered by the lay supporter Anathapindika. One morning, after his alms round and meal, he went with his attendant Ananda to spend the day quietly in a park known as the Palace of Megara's mother. That same day, a large group of monks had gone to the hermitage of a Brahmin named Ramaka. They gathered there for one purpose: to talk about the Dhamma, the truth and the path taught by the Buddha. When their discussion ended, the Buddha himself arrived at the hermitage. He stood outside until the talk had clearly finished, then knocked gently. The monks opened the door and invited him in, and he sat down on the seat they had prepared. He asked them, "What were you discussing when I arrived?" They answered, "Lord, we were speaking about you, and then you came." The Buddha praised them. It was fitting, he said, that those who had gone forth from home into the homeless life out of faith should either engage in Dhamma discussion or rest in noble silence. Then he told them he would explain something essential: the difference between an ignoble search and a noble search. An ignoble search, he said, is when a person who is themselves subject to birth, aging, illness, and death looks for happiness in things that are also bound to birth, aging, illness, and death. Someone who themselves will grow old and die clings to family, possessions, wealth, animals, status, all of which will also age, decay, and pass away. Infatuated with these things tied to them, they search for safety in what cannot be safe. This is the low, ignoble search. A noble search is different. It begins when a person recognizes deeply, I am subject to birth. I am subject to aging, illness, and death. Is it wise to seek my refuge in things that are just as fragile? Seeing the drawbacks of this endless round of birth and death, the noble seeker turns toward what is unborn and deathless, what is free from aging, illness, sorrow, and defilement. In Pali, this release is called nibbana, unbinding, the end of clinging. To seek that unbinding is the noble search. Then the Buddha turned to his own story. Before his awakening, he said, he too was caught in the ignoble search. Although he was still a young man, strong and healthy, with every worldly advantage, he saw that he was not beyond birth, aging, illness, and death. He asked himself, why am I subject to birth, looking for satisfaction in things that are also subject to birth? Why am I subject to aging and death, seeking security in what must also age and die? What if I turned instead toward the unborn, the deathless? With that recognition, he made a radical decision. While his parents wept, not wanting him to go, he shaved off his hair and beard, put on the ochre robe of a renunciant, and left the home life in search of the highest peace. First, he went to a great meditator named Alara Kalama. Alara taught a refined meditation that led to a state called the dimension of nothingness, a very subtle absorption where ordinary perception falls quiet. The Buddha-to-be quickly mastered this teaching. Alara even offered to share leadership of the community with him, saying that the Dhamma he knew, the Buddha-to-be also knew. But when the Buddha-to-be examined this attainment carefully, he saw that it did not lead to dispassion, to the end of craving, to complete awakening. It led to rebirth in that refined state, not beyond birth altogether. For one intent on the noble search, this was not enough. Dissatisfied, he left. Next, he went to another great meditator, Uddaka Ramaputta, whose teacher Rama had realized an even more subtle absorption called neither perception nor non-perception. Again, the Buddha-to-be mastered the practice quickly, reached the same attainment, and was offered the position of teacher. But again he saw clearly, this too did not lead to final release, only to rebirth in a very subtle realm, still within the field of birth and death. So he left once more, continuing the noble search. He wandered through the land of Magadha until he came to a place called Uruvela, a pleasant stretch of forest by a clear flowing river, with nearby villages where he could go for alms. Seeing the beauty and suitability of the place, he thought, this is just right for one intent on exertion. There he settled down to practice. In that quiet forest, following his own path of deep meditation and insight, he eventually fulfilled the noble search. Seeing fully the danger in birth, aging, illness, death, sorrow, and defilement, he realized the unborn, deathless freedom, unbinding. Knowledge and vision arose. His mind was released without any external cause or support. He knew directly, this is my final birth. There is now no further becoming. And yet, even after awakening, another struggle appeared, this time in the heart. The Buddha reflected, this Dhamma I have realized is deep, subtle, hard to see. People delight in attachment, thrill in attachment, cling to attachment. For such a generation, dependent arising and the peace of letting go would be hard to grasp. If I teach and they do not understand, it will be tiring and troublesome for me. Verses arose in his mind, expressing the sense of this difficulty, that the Dhamma goes against the current of the world, and that those covered in the mass of darkness of passion and aversion would not see it. His mind leaned toward remaining silent and dwelling at ease. At that very moment, Brahma Sahampati, a great deity, knew the Buddha's thought and became alarmed. The world is lost if the Tathagata, the fully awakened one, does not teach. In an instant he appeared before the Buddha, bowed, and pleaded with him to open the door to the deathless. There were, he said, beings with only a little dust in their eyes who would understand if they could just hear the Dhamma. To strengthen his plea, Brahma spoke in vivid images. He compared the Buddha to someone standing on a high rock, able to see people below, submerged in sorrow, oppressed by birth and aging. He urged him to rise up as a hero, a victor in battle, to wander the world free of debt and teach the Dhamma for the welfare of those who could understand. Out of compassion, the Buddha surveyed the world with the eye of awakening. He saw that beings were not all the same. Some had much dust in their eyes, some only a little. Some had keen faculties and wholesome tendencies. Others were dull, untrained, and confused. Like lotuses in a pond, some were still submerged, some at water level, and some already rising above the surface, not touched by the water. Seeing this variety, he accepted Brahma's invitation. The doors to the deathless were open. Then he considered, who should hear this Dhamma first? He thought of Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta, recognizing their wisdom and ability. But a divine being appeared and informed him that both had already passed away. The Buddha reflected that this was a great loss. Had they heard this Dhamma, they would have quickly understood. So he turned his mind to the group of 5 monks who had once supported him during his period of severe asceticism. With his superhuman vision, he saw they were staying near Varanasi in the deer park at Isipatana. He set out on foot, traveling in stages until he reached them. When the 5 saw him coming from afar, they remembered how he had abandoned extreme austerities and decided they would not honor him. But when he drew near, their old respect arose despite themselves. One took his robe and bowl, Another offered him a seat. Another brought water for his feet. Still, they addressed him simply as Friend Gautama. The Buddha told them not to address the Tathagata, a term meaning thus gone or thus come, one fully awakened, so casually. He declared that the deathless had been realized, and that if they followed his instruction, they would soon reach the very goal for which they had gone forth. At first they doubted him, pointing out that he had not succeeded through his earlier harsh practices. But when he asked if they had ever heard him speak this way before, they had to admit they had not. Gradually, they opened to him, listened, and allowed themselves to be guided. He taught them carefully, sometimes while 2 went for alms and 3 listened, sometimes the other way around. He explained the drawbacks of birth and death, the danger in clinging to the 5 strings of sensuality, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches that are pleasant and enticing. He compared those who cling to these pleasures blindly to a wild deer caught and bound in a hunter's snares, at the mercy of the hunter, unable to escape when danger comes. In the same way, one tied to sensuality is at the mercy of Mara, the embodiment of delusion and temptation. But those who see the drawbacks of sensuality and understand the escape are like a wild deer roaming free in a forest glen, beyond the hunter's range, walking, standing, sitting, and lying down without fear. He then described the stages of deep meditation, the jhanas, states of collected mind filled first with rapture and pleasure born of seclusion, then with more refined equanimity and clarity, and finally the complete stilling of perception and feeling. A monk who develops these states and uses them wisely, seeing with discernment, cuts off the effluence, the deep flows of ignorance and craving. Such a person has blinded Mara, gone beyond the reach of the hunter. In this way, through steady instruction, the 5 monks themselves completed the noble search. Seeing the danger in birth, aging, illness, death, sorrow, and defilement, they realized the same unborn, deathless freedom the Buddha had realized. Knowledge and vision arose in them. Their release was unprovoked, not dependent on anything, and their wandering in the cycle of birth and death had come to an end. In our own lives, this sutta invites a quiet but radical question. Where are we searching for safety and happiness? Are we placing our hopes in things that age, change, and fall apart? Roles, possessions, even the bodies and minds we call me and mine. That is the ignoble search, not because these things are bad, but because they cannot fully satisfy the longing of the heart. The noble search begins when we honestly see this and turn toward what is deeper. The letting go of clinging, the calming of craving, the peace of a mind that does not rely on anything conditioned to be complete. In daily life, this can be as simple as pausing when we grasp at a pleasant experience, noticing its fragile nature and softening our hold, or as steady as a regular meditation practice that trains the mind to be still, clear, and kind. Little by little, we learn to live more like the deer beyond the hunter's range, moving through the world, but not entangled by it, capable of care, work, and relationship, yet with a heart that knows where true freedom lies. The heart of this sutta rests in a simple but courageous shift, noticing the things we turn toward for safety and recognizing which of them can truly support us. The Buddha's story reminds us that much of what we chase, status, comfort, certain outcomes, cannot fully hold us. Yet the movement toward release begins the moment we see this clearly. In your own day, you might pause when grasping arises and feel what it's like to loosen your hold, just a little. You might sit for a few minutes in quiet, letting the mind settle and remembering that freedom grows in small steps. Thank you for spending this time with Still Mind Suttas. If this reflection was nourishing, You're welcome to return for more readings and contemplations. May your practice unfold gently, and may the noble search continue within your own life.